In 2012, you'd need 30,000 Bitcoin to buy this house. A decade later, it had only cost you 20 Bitcoin. And today, it could be yours for 5. If home prices keep falling in Bitcoin, why do they keep rising in dollars?
General public, for those working families of people, why 2%? Why is getting it to 2% so important?
So that has become the globally agreed, essentially all major central banks target 2% inflation in one form or another. How
does that help my Nevada families? How does that help people in the...
I'll tell you how it does. And it's I guess it's obviously not, it's not obvious how that is, but 2% inflation, to have people believe that inflation is going to go back to 2% really anchors inflation there, because, you know, the evidence is and the modern belief is that people's expectations about inflation actually have an effect on inflation. If you expect inflation to go up 5%, then it will. You know, if everyone kind of expects that, because that's what businesses and households will be expecting, and it'll kind of happen because they expect it. So
I'm a big time Bitcoin guy. I have been from the beginning. I have been mining my own Bitcoin since before.
Of course you are.
People have often asked, when did you buy in? I didn't buy in. I mined in.
Nice.
And I've been doing that since before there were any exchanges. I was on the BitcoinTalk.org forums. I sold a banner ad on one of my websites for 700 Bitcoin. I remember very vividly and my website was like a little crappy internet forum, and I still did that. I remember very vividly going to an online Bitcoin slot machine and betting 60 Bitcoin on one pull.
Nice.
Didn't work. And you know, I was part of the Mt. Gox hack. I lost all of my coins that were in Mt. Gox. And then 10 years later, I got like 13% of them back, you know, through the recovery process. So, I mean, I've been in Bitcoin since the very, very beginning.
Of course you are.
I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin relative to other cryptocurrencies. I've often said there's 2 kinds of crypto. There's Bitcoin and shitcoin. And it's a long discussion as to why I believe that. But I'm a big fan, and I actually originally became interested in cryptocurrency because of a essay by Jim Bell on his website, The Outpost of Freedom, called Assassination Politics. And it was about how he believed cryptocurrency would reshape world politics, the insurance industry, the military, governments across the world. Jim Bell was arrested and sent to prison for being a terrorist later, and also didn't pay his taxes. So a very interesting guy. I'm not saying he's my hero, but I am saying he did predict the Bitcoin and many of the impacts back in 1996. That's when he wrote Assassination Politics in 1996. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to read what someone who is very ahead of his time, though on the fringes of society, was thinking about crypto before anyone else was.
Fascinating.
Assassination politics. Sounds like a nice summary of one of my 70s AI adult film stars. Would be a nice little video on assassination politics. It's so crazy how these people are so ahead of their ahead of the times. It's unbelievable. This is the Michael Saylor. I think it was in the beginning, but this is Michael Saylor as an adult film star explaining his stack. In case you guys want to see that, I will put that. What's going on here? Let's do that. And then we'll do the old pin message. Yes. Yeah. It played before this, but if you come in late, you can go and check that out. Michael Saylor as an adult film star talking about his stack. Where is the price? There's the price. 107.8. Is it enough for you guys? Is it enough for me? Almost. I mean, I'm happy it's slightly up. I mean, it could be slightly down. We could be in the hundos, right? The early hundos, or God forbid, the high 90s. That wouldn't be good, would it? Like a start to the week. Can't complain. 107.9. We are back into our channel of ascension. This is still the red channel of ascension. We want to bust through it. Getting out of it today would probably put us at about 109, 110. So we are, let's see how far we are away from getting out of this red channel of ascension. We are about 1.34%. So that's just, it looks like a lot. And it actually is. But because we're in the law of large numbers, 1.34% in $100,000. Like, I think sometimes we forget that Bitcoin is above $100,000 US. Like, I think in Canadian, it's 150 or something like that. Who knows? So the conversion is just nauseating. Believe me, when I was in Vegas, it was like, think about how this works. So if I ran to get a burger for lunch, you know, I'm looking at the burger prices, $50. But first off, that's a crazy $50 burger anyway, right? But now I got to convert it to Canadian. So a $50 burger is really like, you know, with the tip, it's about $80. No burger is $80 good. Plus I'm taking the bun off, all the garbage on it. So I'm really, it gets even worse. It's an $80 patty. A patty. Last night when I went to Save on Foods, they have on Saturday and Sunday 50% off patties at happy hour. It's literally like $2. Here I am paying 80 Canadian. Anyway, that's the way it goes in Vegas. So even when we get back into this channel of ascension, the green at 110, everything will be bullish. Like I was thinking this morning. Wouldn't it be justifying and basically feel so amazing if the market responded to bullish prowess? And what I mean by that is, like, you know, when you see these massive buys, like I think Saylor put out another one yesterday. He ATM'd again. Like, imagine if the market responded to these things as they should, you know, as we think they should, right? And the price just pounded up every time there was all this amazing bullish prowess. We would have quite an epic little bull run. And sometimes as I lean into the, you know, end of Q3, Q4, that's probably what's going to happen. Nothing's guaranteed, but that's probably, we're going to get closer to that. Now, will we see it through the summer? I mean, history says no, right? History says we'll probably hit the summer bummer and do nothing. August is arguably one of the most lame. It's even lamer than September for one reason and one reason alone. September is more bearish historically, but August is more lame because it doesn't do anything. You know, at least in September, if you're a kamikaze shortesian artist scalping shorts, well, I guess you could probably make some easy money on that. In August, basically, you're just maybe doing covered calls if you're an options trader, which most people aren't. So there's nothing happening. All the psychopathic elites are on holidays. They're in the Hamptons and drinking their adrenochrome. Nothing happens. So yeah, salt in the salt. We generally will. It's the humble opinion of this piano that there's one more shakeout. One more shakeout. Will it happen in August? Will it happen in September? I don't know. But there will be one more shakeout. And it'll be violent, and everyone will be saying, that's it. That's it. Because one of the reasons I think there'll be one more shakeout, minimum one more shakeout, is that it's been a little bit too easy. So, for instance, let's take a look at Scotty Mo. I can't buy any more dips. I've bought all the dips I can. Let's go into this, go as far back as we can here so you guys can see this. So down here, April, into 75K. That's really been, besides last summer bummer, which we are on a different level. we're in a different range there, so we can't really compare. But once we're over 100, we can now compare, tops. So we had this 30% pullback. Now, my friends, the good people of Bitcoin, generally we have many 30% dips. So we've only really had one above 100K. That's pretty easy, but just like anything, if you don't exercise that muscle, that fortitude, that discipline, the confidence, knowing where the price action will be going, if that's not being tested with dips, not that I want any more dips, you lose the ability to recover fast. And we saw it back here. I would argue that the Bitcoiners in general have become a little soy boy with the dips. It's like as soon as there's a dip, that's it. Back to Winnipeg. Because one day there will be a dip that takes us back to Winnipeg. So my prediction is that there probably will be one more. I don't know when it'll come. It'll be 30% based on the NAM. Like, so for instance, I think we went through this last time. If it was 30% from, let's say we don't get above 112 and we hit the summer bummer, with 30% from here would be back to 80K or so. I mean, under 100K, everyone will be saying this is it, right? But you have to factor in the cost basis of most of these giant behemoths, these treasury companies, is about in the 60s and 70s. So it'd be reasonable to go test that water, because that's when you start testing the big boys' water, that's when all the retailers are on the side just going, oh my God, they're going to liquidate these big behemoths. And that's what happens. So will we see it? This is my bullish take on a bearish scenario. I could see price action topping out of this. So let's extend this up to here, just for example's sake. We're going to run some scenarios so I can keep this going like that. Yeah. So we hit a new all-time high. Let's say about, I don't know, it'll be upwards of this channel of ascension. We will respect these lines. Somewhere the next all-time high will probably be in and around this, obviously, because we're going up, right? But let's just call it 122.2. Let's put a little bullseye. Do I have a little picture here? We can put a heart. Put a heart there. 122. Let's say that's the next all-time high, where we get a little frothy. We start seeing celebrities doing commercials. That's the real, we're getting close to the top when all the celebrities start coming out, right? The Matt Damons and whatnot. So 30% from here for the last shakeout. Take us down. Oh, I got to make this smaller again. God damn it. A little bit smaller. 30% from 122. Hopefully this works. 93. So it would still be under 100K. So we would still get that. Oh, damn it. We'll put that just to see if it plays out. Like, who knows? Like, just some piano player in Canada doing nothing, and then on Monday morning. 30%, 85.5. So we'll put a heart there. 80, was it 85? Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. We can't make this a green heart. We got to make it a red heart. 85.5, and we'll put in the number just to see what the hell happens. Like, we don't know what's going to happen here. We're just throwing numbers at the wind, seeing what would happen based on probabilities and historic numbers. That's really what we're doing. I think I saw a Crypto Princess. Yeah, I'm going to do another live stream with her tomorrow. Now, one thing I forgot to check out, Crypto Princess, is how the time allots. I know you said 3:30 your time. I'm going to have to look at that, what the hell it is on. It's probably in the morning, if I know anything. If you haven't subscribed to a Crypto Princess's channel, go ahead and do that. Maybe one of the fine mods in this. This is the funny thing about this chat. It's essentially mods and members. which is great. Who wouldn't want their chat filled with mods and members? Some of them are mods and members. It's very few people that aren't a mod or a member in this chat, which is hilarious, especially on the straight after Randy show. But isn't Randy's show kind of, who knows how long it is? Or are we going right after? Or are we? Yeah, you can tell me later. I'll pop in when you told me. We'll follow the rules. Follow the rules. I won't get ahead of myself. Let's dive deeper into this daily chart here. We are back into our channel of ascension. Is this what we would consider a breakout? Not really. Not really. I would consider this head and shoulders playing out. It's more of a decent retracement out of the channel of ascension. But hey, if that's all we get, I'll take it. I'll take it. I don't want it to go down there. We don't need it to go down there. And here's another little bullish prowess. We are seeing the MACD here. Let's get better. Come on. What's going on here? The MACD is curling up bullish, which is great. We want to see that green above the red. That's when we are in hell yeah, let's go bullish territory. And then when it starts curling over, like of all the things that I do, like all these are lagging indicators. So they're like sports commentators. They just tell you where the puck went from. Gretzky to Messier, Messier to Anderson, Anderson to Semenko. This is 1984 Oilers. You see my head's like stuck in 1984. They're just telling you what's already happened. So they're just great metrics to reinforce maybe your own thesis on where the market's going. So when it starts to, that's right, Jimmy Coco's, it's starting to smile. Can't ask for anything more than a smile in MACD. On the weekly, look at this. This is good and bad. The good news is that it kind of followed my squiggle here. Not quite up to retest this channel of ascension's resistance, but it will. It will. But look at this. I think last week I was like, well, maybe it'll come down and retest this channel of ascension support. We got pretty close. We threw a long hair don't care wick down here to 100.3. The actual would have been 99.8. $500 amongst the crypto overall market cap. Nothing. It's a nothing burger. We did it. It was a proper probability. Although, you know what they say on this channel, that which once wicked will get candlesticked. Now, I don't like graveyard wicks. This is what's happening here. We're creating graveyards so far. We had higher lows, that's nice. And then now we have a lower low with wicks. Now, wicks are retail. If you can imagine a motorboat with a tire tube at the back, you're at the lake, right? You're with your friends, you're single, and your friend sister, who's 1 year younger, brings her friend from the city. Now, normally in the city, you wouldn't look twice at her. She's probably a hard five. But now that we're at the lake, things change. You know, the scarcity, I don't know where I'm getting here. I don't know why I'm bringing girls into this, but now you're trying to impress the girl, right? So what do? You throw your dumb friend on the tire tube, and now you're going to impress the girl that you'd never even talked to in the city, but now that she's out at the cabin, by almost injuring your friend to death, because a lot of bad things can happen all like anyway. Wicks are your friend on the tire tube. And as you pull the boat around, it hits the wave and goes flying, and there's calamity everywhere, but nobody really cares because it's the friend that, he's just along for the ride. Maybe he paid for the gas. Maybe he has the ID to get the booze. Who knows? No one really cares about this guy. And that's what a wick is, right? This is retail. So your friend is also, in this metaphor, it's retail. No one cares. It goes flying off. And then lasers, this must be strictly Canadian. We have a big lake culture in Manitoba, and I think most places do. I'd be maybe not where Crypto Princess is, that could be different up on the other side of the pond. But we have a big lake culture. Everyone kind of has a cabin. Not everyone. I always talk about Victoria Beach. It's like I kind of grew up there in the summer. But these cabins aren't like what you think, right? So there are cabins. So Lake of the Woods, Menaki, all those kind of Canadian Shield-esque cabins, those are where the elites live. You know, a lot of big-time celebrities come to Kenora. It's pretty close. It's called Lake of the Woods. They have cabins there, these $1 million, epic cabins on islands and whatnot. Victoria Beach, however, is more like a cult, where your cabins, there are some nice cabins, don't get me wrong, but most of them are kind of shitty. And that's the charm. They're like the cabin from Evil Dead, really. Like it's all leaning and, you know, windows don't shut, and there's, you know, it's cold, and the heat doesn't work, and there's no air conditioning, you know, nothing like that. Some of them now, they're getting more equipped with stuff, but you know what I mean? It's not the same thing. Isn't the water cold, money? No, the water gets nice and warm, and then as soon as it's like super warm, it becomes algae ridden and you can't go in it. So it's really stupid, right? But we're going there in a couple weeks, Duke and I. And his nanny will be spending a week out there at Victoria Beach. Duke loves it. Someone talked about Duke. Duke is in BC right now with his mom. Some of his relatives, maybe they're friends. I'm not sure. Squeaky McGee, damn, if I was Canadian, I could be a member of the squash club and own a cabin on the lake. No, it's not my cabin. So we had, my mom's side of the family grew up out there. So they had a little bit of a cult within a cult, like all their aunts and uncles. They're all my great aunts and uncles. They're all dead now. They lived there. So we kind of existed through there. And then ownership changed hands, but it's not, I don't own it. I would never own anything. What are you telling me? I barely own any Bitcoin. And if I were to own anything, I would just be Bitcoin anyway. That's all I would ever earn. Why would I want to own something that the government can put their thumb on my neck and leverage something out of me just by holding it? Because really the reality of all this shit is that you don't own anything, even your real estate. Don't pay the VIG on your property tax. See how much you own that. And I think that's what's going to happen. So part of that thumbnail is the banks, is Michael Saylor aping in. Good morning, Carl Elder. Good morning, Wicks wife. Lasers go pew pew. Carl Elder's looking busy at work. One of the things I told you so is him talking about banks aping in. That's happening. Is it adjusting the price? Not really. And then also real estate. I think real estate is the next paradigm from not the normies and not the small rental family owned side hustle where they have a couple rentals and they, they're probably drowned and, one furnace goes and the whole business blows up and they're, playing catch up for the next 4 months, all the while paying the property tax. I think with the higher earning, not real estate trust, but you know what I'm saying? They own 10, they own 15, they own 20 maybe. Those people will be like, this tenant bullshit is bullshit. Well, I'm sick of dealing with this. I'm sick of I have to have a on-call manager at $45,000 a year just to do this. I'm out. And then that retail will come and swipe all the Bitcoin. Because think about that. What's the difference? There's a paradigm moat between ownership, right? And so when people realize that the ownership of certain things, like real estate, is a little bit of a mirage, you have a beneficial exposure to the upside or downside, but you don't really own it. Now, if you want to go deeper into that, you can go watch or listen to my audiobook, The Great Taking. It's the scariest book, the second scariest book. The first scariest book is the Jekyll Island book. This one here, yeah. This is the scariest book you could ever read. Creature from Jekyll Island. Second one is The Great Taking. But you don't have to read it. You can listen to it. Now, it's funny because when I did that book, The Great Taking audiobook, it was my service to people to, get them up to speed with what's going on with the DTCC. And Wicks' wife, pianomattyb, his scary books, right? It's yeah. I keep that there because it's a great reminder of, when you get skeptical, you need some reinforcement. Sometimes, the price action you'll start thinking because you've been in this game for so long. A lot of people think, well, how long am I going to be in this game, right? What's my time horizon? Am I going to get out? No, the answer is most of you won't get out, because by the time you're thinking about exiting for whatever, for me, is it the Canadian dollar? Like, I'm going to buy the Canadian dollar. It's insanity. You will be able to borrow against, it'll be collateral. You'll never have to sell it. And that's why we're going to see these diminished returns in the bear market. Now, there will always be a crypto bear market because it's relative. Yeah, you might not get the 75% downturn, but you will get a downturn that will be considered a bear market. Won't be as violent as before, but here's a scenario that may play out. What if these treasury companies, who are arguably getting over leveraged, because this is how it works in a bull market, people get over leveraged. They get too excited about things that may or may not go right. And a lot of these people do it in desperation, because think about what these treasury companies, they're turning themselves from a zombie, basically a failing business, corporation, whatever you want, into a Bitcoin treasury. It's almost like, your friend becoming a real estate agent, your friend that bounced around jobs all the time. He was a rich kid too. So that's even worse. When rich kids fail, they're trying all these things. Nothing's working. Their lifestyle isn't changing because their mom and dad pays all their bills. It's another thing. And then all of a sudden he's like, F it. I'm going to become a real estate agent. And then become a real estate agent. That's like the last rung on the entrepreneurial ladder or the first rung is real estate agent. And especially if you have a lot of money, you can live through the swings, because what people don't know, and here's a crazy thing about Manitoba, it just recently changed. Now I could be wrong, but you weren't allowed to moonlight as a real estate agent. If you got your real estate license in Manitoba, it's different from every province, you weren't allowed to have any other job, which is so effed up. I had some friends who were real estate agents and they were secret bartenders, right? They're like, how can I? The thing is, when you owe, it's almost like a franchise. When you're working for Century 21 or Remax or whatever, you have to pay, a monthly VIG just to be under the umbrella, whether you use it or not. And so these payments are in escrow and they don't come in all the time. So you got to take on a lot of debt, just like any shitty business that doesn't work properly. You got to take on all this debt before you see that dollar, and they keep you in the debt loop roll. Now, what the hell was I talking about with this low hanging fruit of the treasury companies? Yeah. And so this is all they've got. They either become a treasury company out of desperado, or they go out of business. So that motivation is not the healthiest foyer into the Bitcoinosphere. So some of these Bitcoin treasuries that don't have, let's say, the balls to exist through a 50% downturn. Maybe they're so leveraged that they'll get margin called from whatever bank they borrowed all this money from, or their shareholders, or however they made it. However they raise the money, maybe they get margin called, and that will bring on that sell-off that we know always happens. Now, it may not be that large, and maybe there's big players waiting, but this is where I get kind of bullishly delusional, is that just like in the normal marketplace, when free market capitalism is allowed to flourish, you do have weak hands selling to strong hands. And I think as we move forward, what will diminish some of those crypto winter massive downturns is that we have basically a team of financial bat catchers just sitting there waiting for blood in the water, waiting for some of these weaker. This is my catcher's mitt. Waiting for that pitch. I'm going deep into this analogy. Baseball's not my thing. Usually hockey. I should have used this as a goaltender, but we're in baseball. This is the catcher miss. This is the strong money, the massive institutions, the banks. They're waiting for these small treasury companies to get over-margined, over-leveraged, and start collapsing and start selling into the market, at which they catch that ball and they take it and they buy it. That's why I think you will see a diminished downside to the crypto worker. Now, maybe this is what happens every crypto cycle. Maybe we always think it's going to be better this time. It's not going to be as bad as last time. And I'd argue this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the crypto winter a little more enjoyable than this bull run? I know it sounds crazy. And I remember back then, I would always say, remember, these are the good old days. These are the good old days. This was when it was, 20K, 15K, we were in the doldrums, the deep recess of the crypto winter. And for some reason, I don't know if it was the concept that there was so much potential and upside when we're down that low, that it was more, we felt like we were on the winning losing team, so to speak, like we're on the Bitcoin bad news bears. We knew eventually this team wins, and it was easier to exist. Now, even though we're over 100K, I got to reiterate that we're over 100K. It almost feels like our Bitcoin bad news bears team is being bought from the bottom by some sort of secret corporation. We don't know what happened to our coach. What happened to Jesse's dad there? He used to be the coach. Now we have this weird little fat quant guy who's the coach. It's changing how this team works. And so for better or for worse, the times are changing. The retail normie is not what we were when we got into this years ago. I saw this text or this X tweet that said, so let me get this straight. I put $1,000 into Bitcoin and it goes to $1 million, and I make $9,000 and $9,500. I'm out. And that's the perfect sum up of the new normie. And it makes sense. Imagine you get into Bitcoin and you get a 10x from 1,000, it goes to 10,000. Now, yeah, you should be pretty happy and pretty thankful and grateful that you 10x'd. But it's not enough anymore. I heard there's 100x's. Where's that meme coin that I can get 100x? That's where we're moving. And that's okay, because everyone's journey into Bitcoin goes through a wall of loss. I'm sure everyone here understands what I'm saying. You thought this might have been a better idea to get a little more juice out of the squeeze, and you lost it. And you do that enough, maybe even once, and you realize, God damn it, I should have been in Bitcoin. That's a major takeaway from my initial 2020-21 journey. Getting burned by a bunch of them, looking at the dust of them settling down to basically zero. It's easy for me to say I'll never do that again because I've touched the iron. It's hot. You learn. We see that going through these institutions. When I see some of them, what was it? BlackRock or someone's like an ETF for like a secondary third coin, like I think a SUI on Solana. Now, it may be a profitable ETF, but it's not going to be as profitable or as long-term as the Bitcoin ETF. But it will be attractive to people whose time horizons are high and want 1,000x. They'll get suckered into it. Remember, to me, altcoins are like OnlyFans channels, right? They're going to seduce certain people out of their money and leave them with nothing. Now, maybe there's some success stories. You got to ask yourself, are there any success stories in OnlyFans? Well, maybe the creators themselves, they become multimillionaires selling one picture at a time. But it's not, doesn't make for a healthy investment strategy. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. And let's watch this this price pump. Let's watch a prompt. Let's get a new all-time high today. Why not? Oh, you know, God damn it, we deserve it, don't we?
Make sure you can subscribe and share this video with someone